Intel and Argonne National Lab on exascale and their new Aurora supercomputer. The scale of supercomputing has grown almost too large to comprehend, with millions of compute units performing calculations at rates requiring, for first time, the exa prefix, denoting quadrillions per second. How was this accomplished? With careful planning. And a lot of wires, say two people close to the project. Having noted the news that Intel and Argonne National Lab were planning to take the wrapper off a new exascale computer called Aurora, one of several being built in the US, earlier this year, I recently got a chance to talk with Trish Damkroger, head of Intel's Extreme Computing Organization, and Rick Stevens, Argonne's Associate Lab Director for Computing, Environment and Life Sciences. The two discussed the technical details of the system at the Supercomputing Conference in Denver, where, probably, most of the people who can truly say they understand this type of work already were. So while you can read at industry journals and the press release about the nuts and bolts of the system, including Intel's new Z architecture and Ponte Vecchio general-purpose compute chip, I tried to get a little more of the big picture from the two. Intel and Cray are building a $500 million exascale supercomputer for Argonne National Lab. It should surprise no one that this is a project long in the making, but you might not guess exactly how long, more than a decade. Part of the challenge, then, was to establish computing hardware that was leagues beyond what was possible at the time. Exascale was first being started in 2007. At that time we hadn't even hit the petascale target yet, so we were planning like 3 to 4 magnitudes out, said Stevens. At that time, if we had exascale, it would have required a gigawatt of power, which is obviously not realistic. So a big part of reaching exascale has been reducing power draw. Intel's supercomputing-focused Z architecture is based on a 7-nanometer process, pushing the very edge of Newtonian physics. Much smaller and quantum effects start coming into play. But the smaller the gates, the less power they take, and microscopic savings add up quickly when you're talking billions and trillions of them. But that merely exposes another problem. If you increase the power of a processor by 1000x, you run into a memory bottleneck. The system may be able to think fast, but if it can't access and store data equally fast, there's no point. By having exascale-level computing, but not exabyte-level bandwidth, you end up with a very lopsided system, said Stevens. And once you clear both those obstacles, you run into a third, what's called concurrency. High-performance computing is equally about synchronizing a task between huge numbers of computing units as it is about making those units as powerful. For more on this story, visit the news article link.